So time to get started here and get the display out of this. Alright, I got the first one desoldered here, and kind of looks like it should fall right out of here. Now we'll put this 2406g in. So I thought I thought about this for a little while, and as to whether or not I should put a socket on this. And I decided not to do that. And the reason I did that is because it's going to decrease the amount of dissipation on this chip. And this chip probably would be dissipating somewhere in the order of, oh, I don't know, 800 milliwatts, 900 milliwatts maybe. So if I set it up off the board and disconnected it from the solder pads like you would have with an IC socket, it's not going to dissipate thermally. So I just opted to solder them in. So I'm going to stagger solder these guys back in, because I don't want to generate excessive amounts of heat in the IC. So that's the process. So that's all there was to number one. Number one was really easy. Number two is going to take just a little bit more time because of the new display that I put in there, and the fact that it has wires bussed onto the pins of the IC over here. So what I did was I went ahead and took a picture of all my bus connections onto the right side of this IC. That way, you know, I might not put myself in an awkward position. Now, I don't mean to sound stupid here by any means, but the key to successfully desoldering something is to make sure that your solder sucker is in tip-top maintenance. Because if it's not, you're going to have some issues. That's just the way it works. These solderer pullets are wonderful devices when they work properly. So I just have to move a couple of these little tiny bus wires so I can get in there and get the solder off the pins next to them without the iron burning through the other adjacent wires. I think I should be able to do that. I might have to change an iron tip. So, talking about iron tips, before I do that, I guess I really should say that the purpose of my videos is to certainly not try to impress anybody, because I know there's people out there that are probably far more skilled than I am. But the purpose I like to think that I might be able to serve is teaching people that may not want to mess with this stuff, to encourage them to try to do that. So I like to talk about things that are useful. And one thing that's useful is having good iron tips, or having anything that's really good. And you know, there's a boatload of things I want to say about that, but it's probably not really in my best interest to say it the way I want to. If you have a lousy iron tip, you're going to get a lousy botched up job. If you have a lousy solder sucker, you're going to get a lousy botched up job. So that's the important part that I wanted to make there. You know, back in the 80s, electronics was a very prosperous thought, and that's probably really all I should say about that, and just end that statement right there. So that's why I like to encourage, or like to think that maybe I could encourage somebody to do this stuff. You know, are you going to be 100% successful all the time? Probably not. So back to what I was getting at with iron tips, because this is probably something I ran into maybe even back in the 80s. I don't know, I don't specifically recall, but I've certainly ran into it in the past several years, and that is getting dead spots in your iron tips, because to put it as bluntly as I can, they're junk. Can't put it any clearer than that. Alright, so I have all those little tiny pieces of 30 gauge unwrapped from the pins. So let's see if that IC will pop out of there. I'm kind of thinking it will. So let's get this one in here. So that one was just a little stubborn. So I'm going to tack 2 pins in here. Well, maybe 3 pins to keep this guy from falling out until I get the wire wrap back around all the pins on that side. So it kind of looks to me like I got them all. Solder does like to stick to these boards, I will say that. It helps if you have an aggressive brush. And this is not an aggressive brush, but I don't want to tear up all my wire wrap connections. So it kind of looks to me like might be time to make some marks. and mount this board like so. So it looks like I'm going to have to mount this board. I actually drill these holes. I made some marks on the old board here when I had it out. 4.6 millimeters from this edge to the scribe lines down this side. So we just scribe a line there and scribe a line there. Those are the center points that direction. And it kind of looks like 4.45 millimeters on this side. So right there's going to be the center point for the hole on that side. And it worked out to be 6.04 millimeters on this side. Okay, so there's a center point for that hole. Now unfortunately I got 3 standoffs, so I didn't lay out where the other standoffs got to be, and it kind of looks like, I don't know if there's anything in the way of the third standoff underneath or not. Not really, a resistor there, but it's not close enough, so I have to lay that one out. So reverting back, it was 4.45, so somewhere in there we need a scribe line. Now center point of this one to the center point of that one, best educated guess, is going to be what? 28.73. So we want to swing off of the center point of that, and I just don't have this in the most ideal position, and I should actually drill a pilot hole up here first. So then this hole is going to lay there. And the points on my calipers are getting worn off from using them for a scribe tool. So I drilled a pilot hole there, one there, and drill that one out yet. Now I need to drill those pilot holes out for these little nylon screws, which look to be about 2.52 millimeters, somewhere around there. So it looks like 7/64 will do the job of that. So there's that. Alright, I was getting ready to mount this board on there, and then I saw what could be a train wreck in my building techniques here, so I'm going to correct that first. And that is this. This is asking for trouble. This is probably 28 gauge silver plated Teflon, and the chances of it ever staying connected without breaking off back here at the insulation are pretty much slim to none. You can see. And if that were to happen, I would be in a boatload of trouble, because well, maybe not a boatload of trouble, but I'd be in quite a bit of trouble, because all these regulators would come ungrounded, and I am certainly not going to risk losing an ir2406g to a stupid piece of wire like that for something that I should have known not to put there. So I got a piece of beefy black here, so I'm going to drill that out and put that in there, and I won't even have to epoxy around it, and use this for a ground wire. So I have the board mounted here and I probably should have thought of this prior to this point, but I didn't. I wanted to check the direction on these pots to see which way is up and which way is down, and they should have been flipped, but that's okay, it's all good. I'll make a mental note of that, because down is up and up is down, unideally. So I'm going to set them clockwise, is actually turning the intensity down. So I'm going to set it at 0.8 of a volt as a starting position. And go from there. Alrighty. Looks like I got this all ready to go back together here. I actually pulled the ground wire out underneath here with a beefy ground connection that can't break off, and got this coming down to pin 2 and that one coming down to pin 2. I put some test points on here. I decided that would be a good idea, and then tied my dropping resistor here to the 13 volt side. So it's ready to go back together.